money to maintain themselves. We pay the army, we pay the public bureaucracy, we pay the pension, we pay everything. If you are paid by somebody else, you're not a sovereign country. It's not my political position that we don't support membership of Ukraine. It's a decision of the Hungarian people. No membership at all. That's our position.
Orbán and Meloni finally said stop. And Europe felt the impact instantly. With one bold step, they broke the picture of unity, leaving Brussels shocked and Zelensky facing a harsh political truth he never expected. The message was sharp, cold, and final as Europe's patience collapsed and the warning hit Kiev hard.
It's obvious that there is no victory for poor Ukrainians on the battlefield.
At that EU meeting in Brussels, the mood was tense, the kind of quiet that grows before something erupts. Papers moved, leaders nodded through normal approvals, until two voices cut through the room. Viktor Orbán and Giorgia Meloni. Two prime ministers. Two sentences that froze. 65 billion instantly. No more aid for Ukraine. For a moment nobody reacted. Then the room exploded. Phones rang. Whispers turned into worry. And all the talk of European unity suddenly felt empty and weak. The illusion had broken, and the noise was overwhelming. For the first time since the war began, the EU's constant war funding paused, and two leaders finally asked what others feared to say. Why are we still fighting?
War is the failure of diplomacy. It should have never happened. That war outbreak.
October 1st, 2025. That's when Orbán made it official. Standing at an informal EU meeting in Copenhagen, he dropped the polite mask and called Ukraine unreliable. He said Zelensky was using moral pressure to force nations into paying for his EU membership dream. Then came the sentence that echoed across Europe. No country has ever forced its way into the EU, and it won't happen now either. It wasn't just boldness. It was political performance. Sharp, clear, and perfectly timed. Hungary was nearing its 2026 elections, and Orbán knew exactly what message his voters wanted. We will not be dragged into another nation's war.
It's tragic. So we, all of our heart is with the Ukrainians. We understand how much they suffer, but I'm speaking here as a politician who should save lives.
And behind that speech was a number that made Brussels shake. 65 billion euros. Money already promised to keep Ukraine alive, suddenly trapped behind one veto. One country, 10 million people, just shut down the entire system. Orbán didn't just block support. He revealed the EU's deepest flaw, that its unity depends on the loyalty of nations that no longer trust it.
Simply the Hungarians would not like to belong to the same integration format, even a military one like NATO, a political economic one like European Union, with the Ukrainians. So
inside Brussels, fear spread like fire. Ursula von der Leyen called the veto unacceptable, but her warning echoed through empty halls. Diplomats whispered about a new danger, the Orbán effect. If Hungary could reject the plan, what stopped others from doing it too? France, Italy, Slovakia. The once strong image of Europe as one voice now sounded more like a broken choir. For years, Brussels believed its power was solid. Then one leader proved it was fragile.
Political position that we don't support membership of Ukraine. It's a decision of the Hungarian people. It's a democratic country. Unlike in many other countries, when we have important questions, we involve the people into decision, like migration.
And Orbán wasn't done yet. Days later, news appeared about a long phone call with Vladimir Putin. The timing was planned. A direct jab at the EU, a signal that Hungary would not follow NATO blindly. Then, making it even sharper, Orbán flew to Mar-a-Lago, meeting Donald Trump, the same man who said NATO was outdated. 2 meetings, 2 messages. Hungary moves by its own rules. Now,
I can say you have to do that or that or that, so we are a sovereign country. I hope you are also. At least your prime minister is behaving like that, definitely.
Critics said it was dangerous. Supporters said it was bravery. Either way, the meaning was obvious. In Orbán's view, Hungary isn't a tiny nation hiding behind the EU's 500 million people. It is an independent state standing firm between East and West. We will not send Hungarian children to die in foreign wars, he repeated later that month. And for millions of tired Europeans, those words didn't sound rebellious. They sounded like simple truth.
As a leader of a sovereign country. Too late.
While Orbán shook Brussels from one side, another storm was rising in Rome. Giorgia Meloni, Italy's intense prime minister, had already mocked the EU's big promises. But this time she struck hard. When French President Emmanuel Macron bragged about building a European army, Meloni laughed openly. Her words cut deeper than any report. Russia has 3 million troops. How many will Europe send?
For the international political communities to save lives, especially when you are convinced, as I do, that there is no chance to win this war.
The quiet after that question was louder than cheers. Within hours, the clip went everywhere online. 10 million views, countless comments, saying what many Europeans felt. Finally, someone saying what is real. She pointed it out honestly. Europe doesn't have the men, the budget, or the authority to fight Russia. Pretending otherwise isn't courage. It's disaster. In that single moment, Meloni shifted from right-wing outsider to Europe's unwilling voice of logic. While Macron planned theories and Ursula made speeches, Meloni spoke in words people actually related to. Food prices were rising, heating bills growing, and normal families were tired of paying for a war that felt endless. Her message was simple. Europe can't act like a world power when its people can't afford food.
That Russia invaded Ukraine, but the question is not who invaded whom, the question is what will be the next morning. The next morning, the fact is that more and more people will die, and there is no chance to have a victory on neither side. So this is a war which just deprived.
By late October, Orbán and Meloni had become the most unexpected partners. Hungary's stubborn strongman and Italy's populist firebrand both saying stop. Two leaders from totally different worlds now standing together against the EU's war strategy. And the timing couldn't be worse for Brussels. Zelensky was still asking for EU entry and new funding. But now his requests met resistance, not from Moscow, but from inside the Union. Polls showed the same pattern. Only 38% of Hungarians still trusted the EU. In Germany, 58% wanted a ceasefire, and in Italy, the number reached 63%. All across Europe, things had changed. People were exhausted, broke, and doubting. The shining lines about defending democracy meant little when bills doubled.
Suggestion to everybody that instead of to manage to have a stronger involvement into the war, escalation should be stopped and we should argue in favor of peace and negotiation.
Orbán sensed it first. Meloni boosted it. Together, they turned frustration into a wave. The leaders in Brussels saw rebellion, but millions saw hope. For years, Europe's officials talked of unity. Now two of their own had pulled the curtain back and revealed the cracks inside. What began as one veto had become a revolution of opinions and maybe, just maybe, the dawn of a new Europe. You could feel the mood shift like rolling thunder. Across Europe, crowds rush into the streets. Berlin, Rome, Madrid, all chanting one demand: no more money for war. Everywhere you look, posters, speakers, flags. It's like the continent held its breath for 2 years and finally released it. Polls appear. 58% of Germans, 63% of Italians, 70% of Hungarians, all saying the same thing. Stop the fighting. Start the talks. Brussels' biggest fear had come true. Peace had become the popular demand. It wasn't extreme anymore. It was the mainstream voice. And Brussels, it didn't know how to shut it down. Late October 2025, Zelensky finally breaks. Cameras flashing, anger rising. He calls Orbán Putin's Trojan horse. Oof. That line was meant to hurt. Instead, it collapses badly. The hashtag Orbán traitor trends hard for 2 hours. Then Orbán delivers his punchline. We will not send Hungarian children to die in foreign wars.
What we should do far more energy invest into to convince everybody that the only solution is ceasefire. And then after
half the world calls it cruel, the other half calls it brave, but everyone is discussing it. The balance shifts. Orbán stops being the villain. He becomes the one saying what millions quietly think. Zelensky, once the untouchable symbol of resistance, now seems like the desperate one reaching for moral control. In that single moment, the moral balance turns. Sacrifice loses to survival. Now here's the twist. While Orbán throws blows, Meloni plays strategy. She backs Zelensky's peace idea, but refuses to be controlled. Her view stays clear. She pushes for talks, prisoner exchanges, grain routes, anything that ends this cycle of blood and budgets.
No membership. Because membership would mean first that war would come into the European Union. Second, the money from European Union would go to Ukraine. Both is bad.
Orbán and Meloni's push forces everyone to face what they've avoided. War exhaustion, financial strain, and the false show of moral purity. Von der Leyen looks weak. Macron embarrassed. Zelensky isolated. The empire wasn't attacked. It collapsed from inside. Experts start calling it Europe's major political quake. And they're correct. One by one, smaller states, Slovakia, Austria, even parts of the Balkans begin quietly repeating Hungary's position. The chain reaction starts, and Brussels can't stop it.
It's not a moral statement, it's just a financial fact, you know.
For the first time, people see Orbán and Meloni not as problems, but as the rational ones in a room full of denial. Brussels threatens, warns, argues, but no one cares anymore. Fear has ended. Now, the question isn't who dares to resist, it's who dares not to. By the end of 2025, the truth hits Kyiv like a storm. Europe's unity is broken. The money is frozen, the speeches feel empty, and the applause is gone. Zelensky understands the shift. His Western support isn't strong now. It's breaking from within. Orbán and Meloni's stance becomes symbolic. Not just rebellion, but a warning to every leader pretending everything is stable. The belief in endless Western backing is finished. Europe's message is sharp and harsh. We will not suffer for this war forever. And as the old order fades, one line echoes in headlines, arguments, and history. The age of blind agreement is over. Europe's new chapter starts now. And it begins with the word enough. Roll the credits. Dark scenes, tense music, headlines flashing across screens. Unity shattered. Rebellion rising. Zelensky cornered.